2 1/8 is going to... What is that noise? 2 1/8. I'm going to put a mark at 0, and I'm going to put a mark at 4 1/4. Those represent our outside edges. Triangle. I'm going to avoid that problem where the bottom edge of mine's rounded off, I'm going to set the 2-inch mark on the dot I just made and make a line between 3 inches and 1 inch. Remember, if that ever is confusing to you, I'm using the right measurements. I'm just not using the 0 mark of the triangle. So I'm just quickly like adding an inch to it or something like that to based on wherever I started to make my lines. And okay. There's our rectangle that contains the shape that is our front view. Moving over from here. So this is going to look slightly different because of the changes that I made, but that's okay. We're going to start here, and I'm going to put my triangle back on 0 again. There we go. And I'm going to measure over 1 inch and make a mark. And then it doesn't explicitly tell us that it's a mirror image, but since it doesn't have any other measurements on the other side of the front view or anywhere else to account for these, we just take it as writ that it is a mirrored image. So I'm going to measure 1 inch over from the other side as well, which means I'm going to put a mark at 3 1/4. So that represents where our angles start. Okay, who keeps ducking in and out? I have to look at this in just a second. I'll watch the logs. Okay, so this does say 120 degrees for our angle here. However, you don't have a 120 degree triangle. What you do have is a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle, and the knowledge that if I were to take my triangle here and set it up so that we know that from here to here is 90 degrees, right? We also know that in this orientation, from here to here is 30 degrees. And we know that because if I were to take my other currently missing 30, 60, 90 triangle and set it so that the point was right here, then the hypotenuse would line up and this would create a perfect rectangle. So, in order to make this angle that we have right here on our drawing at the bottom, let me zoom in this a little bit more, that's 120 degrees, we know that all we have to do is set our triangle like I've got it right now and draw along the hypotenuse to get that proper angle that we need. What we don't know, or what we haven't done yet, is measured that in that 1/4 inch up that I kind of stenciled in here in Photoshop. To do that, we're going to set, basically, we're going to make a line. And I'm going to start off by, here, let me flip this over so I can use the measurement a little more effectively. I'm going to set the 1 inch, or here, whatever, I'll just use the 2 inch mark on the line, and I'm going to put a mark at the 1/4 inch spot. And then I'm just going to draw a line that essentially goes between the two dots but not touching them. This is a 1/4 inch off of the bottom line, and it's where the angle that we're getting ready to draw is going to stop. So I set my triangle up, put my pencil on the dot that I made, and I'm just going to draw up to connect those two. I'm going to flip my triangle over, do the same thing on the other side. For some reason my dot is quite a bit higher than it was supposed to be, so I just kind of eyeball it down to the bottom line, and that's basically how you do the bottom section here. Racing shield, let's go ahead and clean that up and get the ooh, that's far too much eraser, far too much, there we go. Get this cleaned up. There we go. Go ahead and clean out the bottom. I'm just going to use this center section here and erase through my erasing shield. I'm not using the dots like to make a hidden line, I'm using the oval shape below it because it protects that corner and lets me erase all of the stuff I don't need. And it's pretty close to the length that that line was anyway. I could have just as usually used any of the others, but that works out pretty well. So that's the bottom part of this shape. Zoom out a little bit more and let's take a look at the top. This one is going to be even easier to complete because we don't have to do any thinking about how far down does that line go. Or we do, but it'll be easy to figure out. So first off, pardon me, let me finish yawning real quick. I'm going to make sure my parallel or my T-square is tight against the side, and I'm going to carry that dot up to the top because I made it so that the first edge was 1 inch over. Do the same thing on the other side. Just carry that dot up. Now, because we know that this is 1 inch from the dot to the end of the angle on the drawing here, and we also know that it's a 45-degree angle, we can use that information to tell us how far down that really short line is going to end up being. And that is 1 inch, because we know that if you have one leg that's 1 inch and another leg that's 1 inch in a 45-degree triangle, then you know that. Sorry, I said that wrong. If you know the length of one leg and the angle of a triangle, you can find the other one, especially in a 45-degree, because they'll be the same. So I'm going to measure down from my line here, 1 inch. There we go. Actually, because of having this center mark in place, I'm not even going to draw a line that's too long like we did down here. I'm just going to bring my angle down until it touches my center mark, because that is 1 inch away from the top since our shape is 2 inches long. So I'm going to put my pencil on the dot I made and come down to my center mark. Had that center mark not been there, or if the measurement had been different, I would have created a line like we did at the bottom that was too long and was simply there to act as a stopping point for our line until we got the rest of it squared away. But from both sides, because it's a mirror image, right? So we come down to that center mark and carry it across. If we were to measure this, this should be 1/4 inch, which should have been on that drawing, but wasn't. But either way, that measurement wasn't technically needed because we know that it's a mirror image on both sides. So other than hidden lines, that makes up the front view here. And we can go ahead and do the hidden lines. All we have to look up here is that how deep those go in, and that's 3.75, or 3/8 if we want to look at it as a fraction. So 3/8, if you remember, is technically, if you set the 0 mark over here on the left-hand side, it is 6 marks over from that, or 3 of the longer marks. So of 0, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it'll be the same distance from the other side. 3/8, put a mark there. And then all I'm going to do is go ahead and draw my vertical line and erase through my erasing shield to make the hidden lines. And then we can also use the erasing shield in the eraser now to get rid of that line in the top. There we go. There we go. That looks pretty good. Let's do the one on this side now. get rid of this extra line that we didn't need really, other than it being scaffolding to make up the outside of our overall shape a minute or two ago. There we go. And that's our front view finished. So, looks complicated, but not nearly as bad as some of the things that we've done. Now here's where things are going to really start looking, or at least the hidden lines are going to look different than they did for this one. So, in order to make the top view, we're going to start in exactly the same spot. We're going to make a rectangle, 2 inches tall, 4¼ inches wide. But remember, we don't have to worry about our horizontal measurements. However, this is one of those cases where it's probably going to be a good idea to go ahead and do the outline of the shape by measuring it, because all of the lines that we're going to draw, except for the 2 that make up the hidden lines, go from the top to the bottom. So it'll be just as easy to go ahead and make the shape now, rather than just drawing all our vertical lines and erasing the rest later. To do that, I'm going to start over here in the corner so I don't have to worry about centering it again, at least not horizontally, by making one line that I know is longer than I need. Then I shall go here and set up. I'm just going to use the 4-inch mark for this. Bring it over to the edge. Put a mark at 5 and a mark at 3. There we go. Actually, let's go ahead and do that again on the other side. So I put my 4-inch mark on there, line it up with the right side of my front view, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a line from 5 to 3. There we go. Gives me a target for the next line that I'm going to draw, which is the top one, and then the bottom one. So a little bit of measuring, but not quite as much as trying to find the center of this like we've done before. One thing that you should now start to be able to see, or at least think about if you start thinking about the right side view, is that we now know how wide and how tall it is. It's going to be 2 inches by 2 inches when we get there to do that part. Okay, so I'm going to set my triangle up, and right now I'm going to transfer up all of these corners. So the hidden line, the corner, the bottom of my angle, over here, and all the way across. So let's go ahead and do that. Lined up with my hidden line. I know that one doesn't connect at the top and the bottom, so just to make erasing easier, I stopped a little bit before the top and bottom line. Let's line this up. I know this one's going to be a solid line. Here's the first place that things are going to be a little different. That first hidden line that you see on the drawing up here, we won't have that one, because in the initial version of this was about a 1/16 of an inch further over. And now that I made it the same size as this one, it tucks nicely up underneath here. The next one that we see, though, is the top of this angle at the bottom. So go ahead and put that one in. That'll be a little bit lighter because that's going to be a hidden line. Line up with that corner. This will be nice and dark because it's an object line, meaning one that we can see on the surface. And then we repeat on the other side. Nice and dark. This one's going to be a hidden line, so fairly light. This one's going to be an object line, so nice and dark. There we go. And then finally, the line for that notch out. So you should see that having your first view drawn and in the right place does help quite a bit, at least in terms of speeding along the process of doing the top part. Let's take a look here, and The notch that gets cut out here is 1.25 inches tall. So let's find our center mark. First off, what's half of inch and a quarter? The answer to that question is 6/8 of an inch. And if we look at our measurement here, if I look at this one because it's easier to see, 6/8 is going to be, that's 1/8, that's 2/8, which is a quarter, 3/8, 4/8, which is a half. I'm sorry, I lied. 5/8 because I can't math. 6/8 is the same as 3/4. All right, so every time I was just saying 6/8, wipe that from your brain. The answer is 5/8 is half of 1 1/4. And that mark is right here. So it's the one, two tick marks after the half mark. Sorry, guys, I am weird out here. So anyway, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to set my triangle. So here, I'm going to flip this around because my arm keeps bending this. So it'll be easier to do from the other side of my drawing board. Okay, so I'm going to put come up here because the tip marks are kind of wearing off on part of my triangle. I'm going to set it so that the 5 and 5/8 mark is on my center. And then I'm just going to come over here to my first one. And I'm going to put a mark at 5 and at 6 1/4. Because once I know the center, and I know the center of my shape, I know where my measurements need to go to finish out that part. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. Put a mark at 5, a mark at 6 1/4. And remember, the whole number for whichever that is just depends on wherever you started. Once I have that in place, line this up, close it. If I was smart, I would have gone ahead and just done the other side at the same time. So it saves me having to realign this again. There we go. Alright, so now the top view is over except for the erasing. So I'm going to go ahead and knock off that little bit right there. Do the same up here. Use that one. I'm going to do the same for this line that needs to be erased. And the same thing for the other side. Come on, taking too long. There we go. And, hidden lines, right. So hidden lines are going to be the second line over in the really small section right there. The ones that are close together. And it's the inside one of the two for both sides. Go. This eraser really does not like going through this erasing shield. And that makes up our top view. Finally, last but not least, let's take a look at the right side view. And this one should be pretty easy. We'll just carry over our top and bottom lines. We could go ahead and do the measurement for that as well, but since my parallel rule doesn't have measurements on it, it'll just be easier to erase. So just like that, get our hidden line and our top view. There we go. And then measure across. So I'm going to put the 2-inch mark there and put a mark at 3 and a mark at 1. And then I'm going to come over 3/8 on either side since I've got it lined up here. 1, 2, 3/8 for those solid vertical lines. Take my triangle, connect the top to the bottom on the dots. Try not to rest my hand on my T-square, which throws my angling off. Alright. And then that's all done except for the erasing. Once you guys have this finished, go ahead and get it scanned and turned in online. But remember, it's not actually due until Sunday night. If you weren't finished with it yet, I would highly recommend that you finish it if you have the chance right now, just because it's fresh in your mind. I will post this video here in just a minute or two after after we're off. But do try. Okay, so a couple things to talk about real quick before you start submitting. When you go to upload your files, please make sure that the file that you're uploading is clear. I've had several that have been turned in recently that are hard to see what it is you're trying to show me in the drawing. It makes it harder to grade if I can't figure out what you're doing, and I might downgrade something that's right just because it's not apparent to me because of the resolution of the picture that you took. So again, it's not a problem if you're using the Chromebook camera. Just make sure there's quite a bit of light and that you view the image before you turn it in to see if it's clear enough for me to grade. Best solution is to use Rocketbook. Second best solution is to use Cam Scanner. But other than that, we've only got 6 minutes left for the class anyway, but let's go ahead and call it a day. Get this uploaded, get anything else you don't have done for me turned in. Don't forget, next Tuesday is the end of the first quarter, so anything that is not turned in before then will not make it onto your midterm or mid-class grade sheet that goes out next Friday, I believe. So it's in your best interest to get those taken care of. Also, after the semester or after the first quarter is over, I will only put in late work once a week because it is a pain in the neck to go in to get the gradebook opened again so that I can put in assignments from before that quarter ended. So just be aware of that, and I think that's it. You guys have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. Don't forget also one last thing. On Monday morning, this class will start at a different time. I don't have the sheet on me. I believe this class will start at 7:30 to 8:10, 8:20. So I believe this class starts at 9 a.m. on Monday. Double check that to be sure. But Parent-Teacher Conference Week changes the whole schedule for next week. So have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday at the unusual time.